Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Grubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
Join us as we discuss the science, theory, and answer your questions like, how do I fix those pesky false alerts?
And what are some great training setups for odor and scent theory?
Why is play so awesome? Hey, we're headed out to train. What are you taking, Stacy?
I'm bringing my GoPro, birch, and some freeze-dried minnows. What about you, Robin?
I think today is TNT, heroin, and some cadaver material. What about you, Crystal?
I'll need my Go Dog fur balls, my bite suit for sure, and some cookies and candy. All that and more. New episodes drop every week. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on all the major platforms.
And all of our free stuff and our socials are located at k9detectioncollaborative.com. That's K9 detectioncollaborative.com.
It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Welcome back to the Canine Detection Collaborative. This is Crystal Wing, and we are going through the takeaways from our first 50 episodes. So this will be a two-part broadcast. And this first one actually comes to our very, very beginnings, way back in February of 22. And this is the intros for Stacy Barnett, and then Robin Grubel, and myself, Crystal Wing. At the end of every episode, we try to give you some sort of takeaway that we go back and think about what it was that kind of struck us in the moment. And so here are the takeaways from our first 3 episodes.
What's the one thing you want everybody to kind of take away from what we talked about?
I'm not going to answer your question. I'm going to answer a different question because I have a different answer in my head.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you kind of a thing that I try to remember when I'm training. You get what you practice. Because I think sometimes we forget that, right? We forget that what we practice and what the dog does is what we're going to repeat. So it kind of goes back to, I guess, we were talking about the root cause analysis, right? That, the whole definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result, right? So if you're doing the same thing over and over, that's what you're going to get. If you've got an issue and you keep practicing and you're practicing that issue is just going to get much stronger. So you get what you practice. So if you wanted the listeners to come away with one thing from this episode, what would it be?
I think that one of the things that I want people, besides all the whole, yay, follow us, we're cool, right? Is that we are going to be able to provide some really interesting, thought-provoking ways to look at things and have a whole bunch of fun doing it. And it's okay. It's okay to do something or try something a little bit different. That, and we're all kind of goofy, but
speak for yourself.
Okay, I'm goofy. I will admit it. It's okay.
All right, I'm goofy too.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Kind of a geek.
Yeah. So I think that that's, yeah.
I look forward to all the laughter.
I know, me too.
Absolutely.
From our discussion today, what is the one thing you want people to take away?
Oh, I should have had an answer to this one in my head, shouldn't I have?
Kind of knew it was coming.
I know. I got caught up in the conversation, though. I guess I'll go to my standby here and I'll just say imagination really is your most powerful tool as a trainer. And I'm going to add, though, too, pay attention. Pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to how you feel, your dog feels. Pay your dog for attention. And it all goes back to using your imagination and how you pay. See how I kind of tied that back together? Oh, yeah. Put a little bow on that.
Yeah. I'm glad that we're recording it because I think that is like a whole interesting concept that we need to talk about of paying attention, right?
Yes.
So
That's future podcast idea right there.
right there.
Stitched on my hat, and the front of my hat says reinforcer, and the back of the hat says #pay attention.
All right. Well,
There you go. I like it.
Episode 4 was Let's Talk Fluency, and 5 was Let's Talk About Pressure. And they ended up both being a lot about fluency. So here are the takeaways from Let's Talk About Fluency and Let's Talk About Pressure.
Don't be the limiting factor. Go out and watch. Go out and learn all you can. And then if a training problem is not going the way you want, pull the plug, put the dog in the car. It's okay.
yeah. So to piggyback off of that, because very similar to your thought, I would say don't ever believe you know it all, right? Don't ever believe you definitely have that right answer, because sometimes you may think you've got it. You may think you know, and you don't. Like, especially when it comes to odor, you may think it's going to do one thing and it doesn't, or you may think that, oh yeah, I've got this in the bag, and you don't.
Or I did it with this last dog, so it's going to work with this dog.
Right, exactly, because all dogs are the same.
Yeah.
Right. But be open to learning, and I think being an open learner, right? I don't know what the right term for that is, but I think that's it. It's being available to learning, I think, is important.
Okay, Crystal.
Yeah, I'm going to go right along with that. You could probably take 1 million classes, and I don't know that you would become fluent just from taking the classes. I think you have to be open to not only learning from others, but learning from their dogs, learning from other trainers, learning from other fields. And I think that's what I've been excited about, is the collaboration between different areas. You can bring it all together, and you can take what you've learned from one area and bring it to another. You cannot be an island, I don't believe, and be fluent. You really have to be that lifelong learner, collaborating in all areas that you may not even think at first may apply. And all of a sudden, here it is.
Yeah.
And then we're all together doing a podcast. Here we go.
So when we start talking about takeaways about fluency, right? As fast and as reflexive as the dog can do it is kind of a definition of fluency. But I look at how fast and effective can a team clear the area. That's a fluency for the detection dog team, at least in my world.
Yeah. And I think from a nosework perspective, because I think there are various levels of fluency, and I think ultimately what you want to do, don't get yourself all scared about, I can't do that yet because, oh my goodness, I may not be whatever.
Fluent, right.
Right. So, and because I think we can also get into kind of a concrete shoes here where we don't want to move forward. I think it's reflect, do a lot of reflection and think about, how did it feel when you were searching with your dog? If it felt easy, if it felt like you were just a different time on a time schedule, you didn't feel rushed, you didn't, if you were able to literally watch what was going on and you were able to internalize it, and your dog was happy and your dog was engaged and your dog was successful, and you come out of it and that's your feeling, that's pretty darn close to fluency for whatever you're doing. And just, so try to think about the feeling you have and do the reflection and learn from it, knowing that we're always in pursuit of excellence. Set your goals and try not to pressure yourself. Because I think if we don't pressure, I think when we pressure ourselves, that's what pressures our dogs. So if we could take the pressure off of ourselves, I think we're going to be in a much better place.
And I think the takeaways that I go from this, I always go back to pay attention. And so here I want you to pay attention to what you're asking of your dog, but also what you're asking yourself. And that's mental pressure and physical pressure. Because like we said earlier, that physical pressure, just because they can, doesn't mean they should, right? Learn my lesson.
Yeah, amen.
And if we think about that physical pressure, and then we also see the mental pressure, it's when I'm done with that activity, I want my dog to feel like they cannot wait to come back and do it again. then I know that we're in the right place. If my dog and myself both, if we both are like, whoo, can we do this again right now? Like, let's go. Can't wait. To me, that's when I know that we're in the right place. Tabitha was our first guest that we had on our show, and we have 2 episodes. We had the journey of building relationships with dual purpose canine with canine trainer Tabitha. And after we would interview someone, we would then have a reflection episode. So here are the takeaways from our interview with Tabitha, and then our reflection episode follows. What would be something that you want people to take away from what you've shared today? And it can be about anything, as many things, whatever it is, but what would that be?
I would say the big takeaway is having patience and developing a relationship with your dog where you can actually start to maybe think like they think, where you're getting inside their head and you're spending that time with them. As we talked about being invested with time. So the more time you spend with them, the more you're going to be able to kind of see how they're perceiving things. And that just enhances all your training. And like I said, it's the time commitment. And if it's something that people want to do, just get out there and do it. And don't be afraid to fail, because sometimes we just get so afraid that we're going to break the dog or we're going to do something wrong. And don't be afraid. Just get out there and do it.
I started out trying to do obedience, trying to do rally, trying to do agility with the jet, right? And I wanted to do all those things because I love training. I love training that kind of stuff. And we struggled. And then when I found that, I'm like, he just wasn't the right dog for that because he was just too sensitive. And then I ended up, we're like, oh, you like sniffing? Let's get into nose work. And hey, it changed my life. So I guess on one side, we're like, well, it's kind of, we feel a loss, but on the other side, there's always, where one door closes, sometimes the other door opens.
Or you got to look for a window.
You got to look for a window. Yes,
right?
I found a window.
Well, which makes me think about like takeaways for this particular reflection on our podcast with Tabitha.
Yeah.
And I think my biggest takeaway is also, I'm going to steal from Crystal. Sorry.
Oh.
Imagination is our best training tool, because who would have thought sitting down and reading to her dog would have been the way that she connected with him? And, really thinking about that, it doesn't have to be, something, you don't have to go buy a new thing, right? It might actually just be the whole fact of let's sit down on the floor and just be.
Yeah.
Right. So it's that imagination on how you build the relationship and engagement with your dog.
I think my takeaway is, I've always, thought about relationship, whatever, but tonight we thought about relationship. And I think what was really powerful is just kind of verbalizing how critical that is and how it develops over time and how, you really want to have that one-on-one relationship, regardless of how many dogs you have, and that you have to kind of work on that. If you have that, you're really connecting with that dog, that then the engagement and whatever you're trying to do, right, is going to be that much better. And I think for me, I love the idea of 10 minutes of uninterrupted time with the dogs. My dogs get attention all the time. I work out of the house mostly, right? I'm self-employed. I work remotely. I've got my dogs around me all the time, but I love the idea of that concentrated, let's just take 10 minutes, just you and me, even if it's not training, right? Even though I do train my dogs, it's just, connecting. It's just a connection part of it. So I think that was amazing.
Which your whole
Really
entire
great.
Statement could have actually been this is how to have a relationship with a human. Right?
Right.
So, okay, Crystal, your turn.
You said the relationship with the human, piggybacking on that, if you want a little game for humans, if you go out to eat or food or whatever with other humans, if you haven't seen it, a fun little game is everybody put your phone in the middle of the table. And the first one to grab your phone is the one that pays for everybody's meals.
Yeah.
So
talk about being present, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that keeps us from being present with our dogs is our attachment to our kind of social life with other people.
Yeah.
Now I could also kind of hear my dad telling me, you're just dog crazy.
Yep.
You're just
Yeah.
crazy dog, crazy
Yeah.
lady, just like your
That's
mother,
okay.
and he kind of has a tone to it. So, I do think so much of this world is about that relationship. It's relationship with ourselves too, and with others and with our other species, these dogs that live with us. It's incredible how they communicate with us when we're open to listening, and how we can match their energy. We can reinforce their attitude. We can reinforce their emotions, I think is a safe thing to say, like what Stacy says. And that reinforcement also reinforces me, right?
Yeah.
It's my favorite time of the day, and I found myself that I come home and I'm really tired, and I'll sit in my car for a few minutes in the driveway before I go in, because I know what's going to happen when I walk in that door.
I've been on the phone with you during those few minutes.
Yes.
I had a feeling you were going to bring that up.
Hey, but the same thing, right?
Yeah, right
I'm
back
like,
at you.
Stop yelling. I'm home. Yeah.
But I know how excited and how much I mean to them. And it really is what brings me joy every day. It doesn't matter how I feel. My dogs are ready to party with everything in every moment. And I feed off of that energy so much. So I'm so very thankful for these amazing creatures. Episode 11 was our D's of detection, the infamous D's. Were there 4? Were there 5? Are there 6? At the very end, we had some fun, and it's how we became the dames of detection. Yeah, I guess my dilemma, I've been digging through this dialogue and trying to decipher the definitions and the purpose of the different D's, distractions, diversions, distance, discrimination, difficulty, I'm digressing here. It dawned on me that you guys are very dedicated to defending your D's. And I cannot deny that you need to do what works for you, because you are the dames of detection.
And you just dropped that mic like,
Oh my gosh. And it's like running from the burning building.
God.
That's my takeaway.
You know what? I think we will just leave that right there as the takeaway.
In episodes 12 and 13, we were able to get to know Holly Bouchard. Here are our takeaways from those 2 episodes. So I think this might be a good place to say our farewells and celebrate how inspiring Holly has been for us.
This has been great. Like I said, I've known Holly, quite some time now, and she never ceases to inspire, and she's just a genuine, wonderful human being with a whole lot of great ideas. And listening to the interview, or actually being there at the interview, I didn't just listen, right? I was there at the interview, right? And, but getting to listen to it afterwards, like together with you guys, it's just really kind of cool. It's just kind of getting in and kind of digging into some of the things, and it's just definitely a fun experience. What advice would you give to people that if they're handling a non-traditional breed in nose work?
Define your own success, love what your dog is, and accept that it won't be what it isn't. Trying to make a Whippet a lab isn't very satisfying. Motto will never be Maya. Maya will never be Motto. I have found it's been just a blessing to be in with a dog who is having to make bigger adjustments and who takes more breaking down of behaviors and more repetition and more care. I've found that to be fun. When we compete with non-traditional breeds, for sure, or for dogs with extra challenges, whether they're non-traditional or traditional, we have to define our own definition of success, and we have to fully embrace. We can't spend very much time comparing our dogs to anybody else. Comparison is the death of joy, and particularly with the non-traditional breeds or the dogs that have temperament challenges or environmental challenges, we have to celebrate wherever we can celebrate and just be happy with that. If we start thinking that we have to compare to our neighbor, we're setting ourselves up to fail. It had to always feel like a great deal for him. And by keeping that the first thing, keep the picture perfect, keep it a great trade for him. By attending to that first, I think I got the most I could out of who they were. I think that's the cornerstone to what kept them successful. Yep. And keeping attitude first, attitude first. And if attitude isn't where we want it, we don't go anywhere else. It's all attitude first, and there isn't second place. Attitude is everything.
We discussed the woes and joys of transitioning canine partners in episode 13. Enjoy the takeaways.
We've been talking a lot tonight about working a new partner. And I think what's really evident is how we're enjoying the experience of working with that next partner, and that it's not, because we kind of started talking about comparison as kind of almost a negative, but I think what we're also talking about is how wonderful it is that each one of them is so unique and so much fun. And even when they're doing things like breaking in their refrigerator, right? We still, we can look at them and go, dang, you're a smart dog, right?
Right.
And you're like, well, that's problem solving, right? That's problem solving. That's an inaccessible hide, that chicken, that nothing is inaccessible.
Well, or you look at them and you're like, none of the other dogs have done that. How did you figure that out?
Right.
Yeah.
Because she's a girl.
There we go back to that.
Right? She's a girl. So I think this just comes down to, it's take the time to explore, take the time to reflect and appreciate the differences that your next dog brings, because it makes you into a better trainer. It makes you, and as long as you approach it with optimism and you approach it with good humor,
yes, that
you will be better for it and expect the unexpected, because the unexpected is going to happen.
Right.
And there's that excitement of the future, there's that chance to fix the mistakes you made with the previous dogs that you're just going to make even more. But it's that honeymoon phase with the beginning of that new relationship. It's fun. It's stressful. You just got to enjoy that journey. I look back a year ago and seeing all these posts, and my little floppy-eared girl who now has little flying nun ears. If only she could have kept the ears. But I mean, otherwise, they all find their way, and that they like fit into your little culture. And it's just learning to communicate how they need to dog in your world. I think that's the important key too, just to listen to them, learn them, spend time with them, and help them understand what it's like or what you need to be a good dog from them.
And I have a lot of people tell me, well, I want to do it right this time.
Never did it wrong to begin with.
Well, yeah. And I don't want to make mistakes. And my answer is, don't worry, you're going to make mistakes, but as a better trainer, you will be able to recognize that, one, you're making different mistakes because it's a different dog. And you will be able to recognize your mistakes sooner because you're a better trainer. And so I think that is, it's been a fun conversation. It's helped reframe the whole concept of having a successor for a partner and having, all of the different partners for me.
We talked a lot about motivation, and episode 15 was motivation and editing your expectations, followed by more on canine and human motivation. Takeaways, points. What do you want to share? Okay, I'll go first then. I win.
Okay, good.
Instead of, I'm gonna do something new here. A lot of times what I do when I'm trying to define something, I think of the opposite. So if I'm thinking about how I want to motivate my dog, I'm going to actually ask myself, what is the opposite of motivation? So I would ask myself, if you want to make it harder or less likely to happen, what would you do? And so if I can answer that, then that means I have the answer to how I can help motivate my dog.
Whoa.
I had another brain freeze on that one.
That might be a whole nother episode.
I'll be honest.
Okay, so if you want to make it, I'm just reversing motivation. So if you want to make it harder or less likely to happen, what would you do? Okay, so what was your search today, Stacy?
Oh, my search today? Oh, I was just doing that sourcing stuff in the, yeah.
Okay, so in that sourcing, what would you do to make it harder or less likely to happen?
Okay. To make it harder, I would put 2 hides.
Okay. And what else would you do to make it less likely to happen? What would cause your dog to fail?
That would definitely make it less likely to happen. If I put 2 hides, it'd be a lot harder to source both.
So easy thing right there. That's how you could demotivate. So to answer your question, you'd flip it and go, okay, if I made 2 hides, that'd be harder. It'd probably not happen. So what if I only do 1? Then I can probably be successful. So what was your last thing you trained, Robin?
I was training obedience today. I know, big shocker.
Aw, what were you doing? Give me one thing you did.
Attention. I was trying to get Ducati to actually look at me.
I mean, that's a long way to look up for that little girl.
She's 58 pounds, by the way. She's not so little.
She's bigger than all 3 of mine.
But you're still 6 foot tall. So
okay. Yeah. And so, you know, what I very quickly found out is that the carpenter bees and the donkeys are much more interesting than me.
Okay.
So the next time I train, in order to make it more likely that it's not going to happen, it means I continue to have her face the donkeys instead of turning around and having me face the donkeys and her face me.
Yeah. So even looking at what was right and what was difficult. So then, you know, next time to just change that one thing to make it less difficult. So you can just even reflect on that previous session.
Right.
So just flipping around, potentially going and, you know, taking care of the bee problem would be probably good too for your barn.
Or closing, actually closing the garage door so she can't see. And then that lets the bees out.
Yeah. So you're just identifying those things. And then, you know, now we're on B's or D's, which no.
Well, they're the size of freaking quarters.
So that's what I always do is when I start thinking about when I'm training, I always ask myself, what could I do to make it more difficult or harder? And then that usually always gives me the answer I need of what I need to do to be successful. I don't know why, but sometimes I can't think the other way. I can't go, okay, what do I need to be successful this time? Instead, I look around and I go, okay, if I have that distraction, okay, that's going to be hard. And if I did that, that'd be really hard. I'm really good at making stuff hard.
That's a really great way to edit. And that I think is sometimes when our searches get like way too difficult, it's because we haven't edited ourselves.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm still having a brain freeze.
Sorry, I didn't mean to leave that as a brain freeze thought.
It's okay.
No,
But
I'm like sitting there going, I can't give you a takeaway after that because that's like I'm full.
I think that's an excellent tech because if you constantly are making stuff harder, it's actually demotivating.
Absolutely.
Right. And so if we think about that, okay, if I'm going to make it that hard, and that hard, what's all the hard stuff? And if I start removing the stuff out so that it's motivating for the animal, that's huge. Okay. That's our takeaway for today.
Yeah.
Crystal wins.
Oh, you guys, you're being lazy now.
No. We just don't want to take away from your takeaway.
Oh,
yes.
You're so kind. You're so kind. So I think with that too, I would tell people to go back and listen to the episode on the D's because I think that really will help understand some of the things we talked about today.
Absolutely.
And then a couple of the silly jokes we just brought in. I think that'd be helpful.
Great.
All right. What are your final thoughts for today? You want to add anything? You want to any takeaways or wrap ups?
I think my takeaway here is to really remember that when we're training our dogs, that we are training them to be kind of in balance, right? And there's a pendulum always swinging whenever we're training our dogs. And in order for the dogs to get access to the dog's motivation, the dog has to be in the right mindset, and so do we.
And mine is to really think about the fact that we want a consistent dog, which means we have to have consistent training, which means we have to have a plan, which leads, of course, into all of Crystal's stuff or the stuff Stacy just said. And Crystal, there you go. And to make training easy for yourself, if you need to have 3 versions of the same tug toy so that you can have them stashed around the house. I went out and bought extra dog bowls so I could put treats in key locations around my house so that they're easy to grab so I can just go train, just kind of like Crystal did with running. Really, really simple stuff that you can do that makes it easier for you to do the right thing.
Yeah, just more likely. I have a little treat bowl now that I have at the front door and back door so that when we go through the door, then immediately I pick up the treat and they come right back to me. So it's not this rushing through the door. It's just this simple little trick, but it's really helped out and I don't have to be as consistent. I just give them a piece of kibble and it's right there. I was training with Tabitha a couple of days ago, and that was from I don't know what episode it was, but you have to listen to her. She's amazing. But I had the chance to train with her again. And the shirt that she was wearing, on the back of it, it said, "Don't be upset by the results you didn't get with the work you did not do." And I think that also plays into that motivation piece. Yes. And I don't know who the quote was from. It was just on her shirt. So I'm sure somebody said it. But I think that's also part of the motivation, in the sense that we can't expect our dogs to know things that we've never taught them. And we have to put that work in, and it's setting up those habits to get that work going. And what Inky Johnson, I have to end my thoughts with him, right? Because I'm yeah, Inky. He said, redirection, pain, setbacks, shortcomings, highs, lows, they're all a part of the process. Embrace it, respect it, and trust it. And I was thinking earlier when Stacy was really talking about, it's really about being a part of that process. And the process is more important than the product. And we have to fall in love with the process. So no matter where we are in that piece, we don't have to always go back to foundation or, try to get higher and stronger. Like, sometimes it's just a moment. And I had to realize that this last week. It was just a moment. It was a small problem to fix. It wasn't the end of the world, no matter how much my brain was telling me it was, and that I should no longer be a dog trainer and I should just stop all the things. And I'm so glad I'm the only one that's ever thought that. And that's where the motivation comes back in, to be around people that are supportive, like you guys, that are there to say, look, knock it off. You're fine. It's a moment. So sometimes motivation is just a moment.
Great.
I love that.
In episode 16, we had just gone to Muscatatuck. So if you have heard about MUTC 2022, that was our Cadaver Dog Training. It's our reflections and revelations. Here are the takeaways.
So something that really impressed upon me that was just so special was the dedication. It was so clear from everyone there. And that is just really amazing to see. And keep in mind, this is not my lane, right? I'm not a search and rescue handler, but I huge respect, by the way, huge respect. It was really wonderful just to see all of this and see the dedication from both the instructors and the students, and see how it really was a community. And honestly, I just want to, thank you for including both me and Kayla and allowing us to be a part of that this weekend. So Thank you for that.
I will say, my big takeaway, besides the fact that, oh my God, we're doing it next year, is
Yay.
Yay. Learned a whole lot of stuff, is the fact that it takes a village. It takes a village to train a detection dog team, because you have different trainers that click with different people, and different dogs work different ways. And having the ability, like, to even have Crystal all of a sudden step in, I could actually almost feel a sigh of relief from my instructors that we don't have to address that. We have somebody here who can do it and address play and address outs and all that sort of stuff. And so I think that's one of the things that I love, this little collaborative that we've got going on, is the fact that it does take a village.
Yeah.
And find your support structure and your tribe. And it's highly important to support you on your journey.
And I go back to what you said earlier about, picking your trainer. What I love too is that you brought trainers from all over the country. And so now people have a knowledge of how these instructors teach and how they connect and what they know. And so now they can even go back home and they know who to go to. And
Right.
it's kind of like I dumped all the toys out of the van for the dogs to go shopping, to save you some money from having to go to Amazon and Redline and all these places to go and try to find if you like these toys. You can do it all at once. And it's kind of the same thing. It's almost like the Disneyland of instructors. So you get to bring them from everywhere and see who the best is already, because only the best are going to come train with you. And you just get it all in one place. It was so great.
And each instructor has kind of their bailiwick, right? And it's okay. You don't have to be great at everything. You can just do your thing.
Yep.
So I thank both of you for coming and helping out, because it's those little tiny finishing touches that you put on a seminar that make people go, wow, which having both of you there to support the seminar was absolutely lovely. Yay.
Can't wait to do it again. It's going to be great. Episode 18 was using speed drills or games in our canine training.
We have the tendency as humans to look for the gross body movements out of the dog. And so I told him the game that I have now started playing with my dog, I don't care which dog I'm working, is that I need to be able to call the exact millisecond that the dog makes the decision to do the trained final response, because that means I'm training my eyeball to recognize every single one of those little changes of behavior, whether it's the tail or the ear set or the sniffing or the pace or whatever. Thank you, Steve White, for that whole concept on how to look at all these things differently from like 18 years ago. Then it also helps me be like, that's odor. I don't even need to ask somebody to confirm. I know what it is, because I've gotten all of the stuff before. And in my world, a typical indication that I'm on a distractor is a paw up, which is typically an animal or something else that it's not what I want. So, that's a really other thing is, you put distractors out, you video both of them, not in speed games. So you can video
your distractors out or diversions out. I forget.
Diversions. You put diversions out. So then you video your dog doing both, and then you go back and catalog the differences and the similarities between the two. Who was talking about that just recently? And they had a fabulous way for doing it. Darn it. I'll have to think about that. Oh, I think it was Craig. Yeah, it was Craig. Because he was talking about the two lists, right? But anyway.
I was going to just quote, going back to the speed games, although he called it speed drill, he said he could fix anything with a speed drill.
Yes.
Right. And this is kind of what we're talking about today, is taking that, what thing are you trying to work on? That tiny, tiny thing, like bring down to that little core concept. And can you turn that into a game? That's what I loved.
Episode 19 was thoughts on finding a canine training tribe, coach, or instructor.
I was thinking about while you were talking, Stacy, and I'm just back to the whole concept of there's a lot of people out there who can teach the general concepts, do some really fabulous stuff on giving you basic information. But when you're trying to start getting into line handling and, how to overcome this little nuance, absolutely. And the different breeds.
Yeah.
Right? Because how a pointy-eared dog does something is a little bit different than how a floppy-eared dog does something. And then we start getting into, we were having this discussion last night over dinner, when you walk in with a dog that looks amazingly awesome, the first question people ask you is, where did you get that dog? What kennel did it come from? And you're also trying to layer over the top. Well, not only is it the kennel, the breeding that the dog came from, but it's also the training that went into the dog, which, Stacy, goes back to your point, is that sometimes the difficult dogs teach you more.
So that kind of continues in ask. Well, that was one of the points that you made too, was just to make sure that you ask people to help. And I think I'm going to relate to what you just said. If I have a border collie and that is what I'm trying to train, it might be great to go to someone that specializes in border collies, even if they don't specialize in the thing that I'm trying to train, but just have someone to help me understand my breed. And so that kind of continues a little bit there. Also, something else we pointed out was to be in places that makes it more likely for you to make connections, because connecting and networking is going to be so important. And so it's important to be nice. So when you go places as a student, I feel like a lot of what we said today was about how to be a better student, because the better student is going to get more access to have better mentors. And so part of it is really checking yourself. Knowing what you don't know is really hard. So go into it knowing that you don't know everything. And honestly, you probably know very little. And to be open, and that you look for an instructor that is also open. And it's better to get good training occasionally than mediocre or poor training often. And when you are well-rounded, it's easier for you to then also probably find other well-rounded people. What's that thing about, if you're looking for the color red, you're going to find the color red. If you're looking for things to make you happy, you're probably going to be, happier. You're going to find those things easier. So the people that you want, you need to also be that person yourself. So really check yourself and be prepared as a student when you go into situations. Those are kind of some of the main points. Do you guys have some more that you can think back to that we said?
Dang. Wow.
I know I threw a couple extra.
No. You're just like, you're wow. That was a beautiful summary.
Yay.
Honestly.
Awesome.
I love how you said about, did you honor the dog? I think that's the most important when we start to really think about this, and that clarity is kindness, that we keep kind of going back to that over and over. I know we talk about the secrets of training, and that sort of thing, but I think so much about it is honoring our dog, being clear, and being good humans, because that's really what it comes back down to. And so if you're being a kind, good human, going back to the social media thing from the very beginning, you're also going to attract those other good humans to you. I mean, I was so thankful that my team said, hey, you should check out this chick named Robin. And then so I looked her up on Facebook and I saw that she was looking and she had a Moodle problem. And so then I messaged her privately and said, hey, we're using Moodle at school. I can help you with this, because that's what kindness is about, and about reaching out, knowing that someone else said that this is a nice human. So I'm like, okay. I mean, it's just how you make those connections. And that important thing that she said is ask. Her class was full. I asked, I got in. Here we are a year and a half later.
Right. And the other thing on that behalf of ask is I absolutely positively expect that I have my mentors, or I have my instructors that I go work for. I am actually paying for their experience to be able to cut my training time. And there is it's paying for experience. I am not going to go out and ask Joe Blow person to come fix my toilet. I'm actually going to go find a licensed plumber and probably expect to pay more. And it's okay.
So don't do buts. No buts.
Right.
Yes, buts.
Okay, you can't say buts talking about plumbing.
Sorry. I was talking about, like you're paying that person for their expertise. But right. Check your except for with a toilet issue. Right? Check your butts at the door.
Yeah. Right. And and you expect to pay for experience. Don't be shocked to pay for experience in all aspects. So I think that finding instructors, finding mentors, finding good coaches is really, really hard. And just to let everybody know, there is, in the executive and business coaching world, there is actually a certification process, kind of like going through APDT or something like that. It's self-accreditation, but you have to take a test and you have to go through coaching. So one of the things to consider, and like Crystal is a coach, but she coached track and field, right?
Track and field, softball, volleyball.
Right. So there's also that
a lot of things, basketball.
Right. There's a couple of different kind of coaches, but remember, coaches, whether you're doing what Crystal does or you're doing what I have done for the executive coaching stuff, we actually go through education for that. So make sure to keep that in mind as people are starting to work through stuff. So I think that's important to keep for everybody to know and to be able to read through when you're looking at credentialing.
And one last thing from my side is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, meaning you're not there to replace everything that you do with something else unless everything that you do is not working, right? That kind of goes back to my comment about the lanes, right? It's you learn something, augment it. You're not going there to just replace everything. And like I said, unless it's not working.
Yeah.
Valid. Very
and
valid.
And that maybe you want to replace everything. I don't know. It's just,
I can't wait to go make my little dry erase cards to put on the kennels. Like that's happening.
Yes. I agree.
That's so happening. I'm excited about that. And I'm also going to write down the 3 things that I want and the 3 things that my dog needs or wants, like as soon as we get done. I'm excited. Thank you for all this inspiration. Episode 20 continued on the idea of engagement and advocating for your dog.
Let's train our dogs instead of always testing our dogs. Let's think about engagement as a skill that needs to be built.
yeah. And I'd like to build on that as my final thought, where it's before the engagement, you have to have that feeling of safety. So they have to feel confident in their surroundings, and then you can get the engagement. And if you don't have the confidence, you're not going to get the engagement.
Right.
You got to go back. You got to deal with the confidence first.
Right.
And what I'll add is to advocate for your dog. I think Stacy hit it on the head earlier, was to understand dog body language. You have to know how your dog is perceiving that context of that situation, their environment, all of that. It all comes down to, can you read your dog? So if you can read your dog, then you can advocate for your dog. But if you don't know how your dog is feeling, I mean, you're kind of just guessing. I mean, we are kind of guessing at times, but there's a lot of very factual, observable things that you can look at to understand how your dog feels. So practice that skill. It will help with everything, engagement included. Episode 21 was about expectations, relationships, and gratitude.
Thinking about what are the things that we want people to take away.
Expectations are necessary. I've definitely come to that conclusion in talking about this, because at the beginning they felt so hurtful and they felt so disappointing. And the passage of time that Stacy brought up, I think, is so important in this. Our dogs don't live long enough. They have such short working careers, and then we have to deal with how fast we can evolve. And I think evolve is the best word I can come up with there. And I really want a strong relationship with my canine. In order to do that, my partner has to have expectations. I have to have expectations of them. And if I don't have those, I'm not going to grow. And I'm not going to get any better in my sport world or my SAR world. And in the same time, I have to have introspection. And part of that, I think, that I really am going to have to think about is the source of my expectations. I think that's going to be a really important thing for me to kind of move forward, and maybe for others to consider if they're kind of dealing with similar things. I'm going to overlook my shortcomings at times and my dogs at times, but I think I need to really look for the things that I appreciate about my dog and about myself, and not just when the dog is in front of me and how much I adore him or her, but also when I'm away from my dog and I'm coming up with training plans and I'm not focusing on the negative, but I'm focusing on the things that are really going well and that we're growing. And then my final thought is gratitude. if I can only just one advice is to focus on my gratitude, because I can't have any other negative feelings when I'm feeling grateful. That's my wrap up.
I like the ditto. And I also think that it's important when we start having those expectations to really understand your why. Why are your expectations so high in, you want to do bitey sports? Okay, great. Yes. What happens if you have a dog that doesn't want to do bitey sports? What's your why? You want to compete. You have a dog that you bought to go do search and rescue, or you bought to be a detection dog. And all of a sudden that dog has said, I don't have the propensity to do whatever nose thing that you want to do, but I want to go herd sheep. And is it because you want the relationship with the dog, or is it because you want to compete in that specific sport? And as you go through those expectations and answering all of that introspection stuff can lead to some really hard answers, but it might take you on a new interesting path.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, look at this path. Oh my gosh.
Right.
4 years ago, I was ready to sell my van because Quinn was, failing health, and checkmate. I found out he had bad hips, and I was like, well, everything's done. There's no more sports. Everything is done. And then here I am 4 years later, van life. And I have Radish, who is doing well and wanting to do all the things. And yeah, she had hip surgery as a pup a year ago, almost from yesterday. And we're all hanging in there. And Quinn is doing the best he can for an old blind dog. And yeah, a lot of really good things.
You've got two very nice dogs. Yukon's teaching you a lot about nose work and teaching scent work.
And everybody else now, because of the opportunities I've had to share with others. And so I'm so thankful again, back to that gratitude piece.
And Check and him are both helping develop the whole next round of female decoys and helpers.
Yeah. But wouldn't it be so fun to compete? Back to the why. Always back to the why. Yep. So that's the question for the listeners. What's your why? And if you ever get in these struggles, think back to your why and think to your gratitude. And hopefully you appreciated our vulnerability and our candidness for sharing all of this. Episode 22, which just happened to be our second most downloaded episode, was managing your adolescent puppy or that canine teenage tyrant. Okay, your turn this time. What is your takeaway about your teenage tyrants? You have to go first. It's not doing it this time.
Who, me?
Both of you.
You have the teenage terrorists. The teenage tyrants. I've got the ones that are coming out of it.
You've survived. We need a shirt. I survived teenage tyrants.
I survived the teenage tyrants, right? I think it's just really kind of, be empathetic to your dog and the fact that they are going through their hormones and they are going through this growth phase, and you need to think about your expectations, and management is your friend.
Mine
I like it.
Are actually going to be somewhat along the same lines of use the opportunity of them checking out to develop your skills on encouraging engagement and being more creative. And we'll post videos of us doing the shadow game in full farm fashion. And, how can you increase your skills and keep them engaged with you? Plus, manage your environment and help build the dog that you want to build later, and know that they're filing stuff away. You just might not see it for 2 years.
So I listen to podcasts and get lots of information from lots of different places. And I think it was Tom Davis. I hope that I'm thinking of the right person I heard it from, but he's talking about reactive dogs. And here I'm going to say it's for a teenage dog. You are not in the dog business. You are in the people business. Every dog around you is your responsibility. And that was advice that he gave a client. And when I think about our teenage dogs, we are responsible for our dog. We are responsible for everyone else's dog. We are responsible for everyone else. We are responsible for their experiences. We really have to kind of take that on our shoulders for our teenagers. We don't want them to rehearse bad behaviors. We want them to have good experiences. and we want to try to help them survive teenagehood, just like we are trying to survive their teenagehood. Because when we get out through the other end, what a beautiful canine partner we have, and the relationship we have built is just, there's nothing else in this world that's as wonderful as that. Episode 23 was all about blanks, called Fill in the Blank.
So you're talking about really creating that value for that hunt.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that us thinking about blank hides or blank areas as really what we're doing is we're working on our hunting.
Yeah.
And team hunting, not just the dog hunting, team hunting.
Yep.
Maybe we should reframe blanks into being, these are hunt problems.
Yeah. Hunt setups.
How and working on the sniff and dismiss and all that sort of stuff. I never want to push my dog to the point where they say I'm out on the hunting phase.
So I think that's a huge important piece of it. And then when you're in those blanks, make sure you're not just, you shouldn't be taking a brand new green dog and doing a big, huge blank area. You've got to be, it's got to be commensurate, right? It has to be commensurate with their experience and with their desire and with their, Yeah.
I love what you said, Stacy, where you said that you put large unproductive areas to teach the blind within your search. What a great way to introduce that blindness, that you can build that trust that you're going to be successful. Keep going, buddy. You're going to get there. I love that trust piece. And I found, I remember taking a blank webinar from you, and I just looked it up, and it was June 18th of 2020, Reading Your Dog series, Blank Areas. Because it was such an important webinar that I watched. It really, it sparked so many ideas, and before we were even friends.
Crazy. That's
but
crazy.
Something in there that you really stated that stayed with me was the idea that you're teaching stamina, communication, and trust. And I think that's something that we've talked a lot about this last hour. Is that's what you're building, and you're building an awareness. And it really is all about reading your dog, but also reading ourselves.
So I just did a webinar last night on blank areas. That recording is available, by the way, if anybody is interested. So that's on my video on demand webinar site, which is movies.sensibilitiesnw.com. And
we'll
you can
put a link in.
In the show notes. It's happening.
Notes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a recorded webinar. So it's about 2 hours long. Actually, not quite 2 hours, but just under 2 hours on blank areas. So that includes Q&A.
Fantastic.
Your information is just so impressive. I love the way you think through and you present. There was a graphic that you had in that one, and it just really, it helped me understand things so much better. And you had so many videos, and it just, and you know what it was? How did you say it? It was something about, it's not an absence. How did you say it?
It's not an absence of change in behavior, right? There's definitely, it has its own behaviors.
Yes. And that is what blew my mind. And I think that's honestly what got me so excited about blank areas. You know what? That is what did it. Because it was the moment of that recognition that the dog does something different in a blank area, and it's not just an absence of odor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an absence. That's good.
It's a big leap when a lot of people, when people start to make that.
It was huge for me.
It's huge.
It was huge for me, because it wasn't just an absence of what was supposed to be happening, but it was whole new behaviors that I started witnessing. And, since I'm such a geek about watching the dog, that was what I got so excited. And I'm like, you can do
love
that.
I'm like, the dog's going up.
Yes.
The dog's going up. I'm like, okay, it's probably blank. There's probably nothing here.
Right.
Yeah. And then when showing the disinterest and the wanting to leave, and it was so good. I'm like, yay, look, there's all these new things I can look for that really tells me that this area is not productive.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you get the sniff and then they kind of gaze off into they're sniffing novel odor, and then they kind of look a little confused and they kind of gaze off into the environment, right?
Yeah.
A lot of that is just this was really interesting odor, but there's nothing out here.
Yeah, the snipping frequency, like all that stuff. Oh my gosh. So now I have to go watch your webinar from last night, and I'm really sad that I missed it.
I'll get you the link.
Yay!
Ladies, this was a fantastic discussion on why we should incorporate blanks into our training more often.
I think we covered the who, what, when, where, why, and how of it, in fact.
I think we did. Now,
I think so.
Episode 24, Story Time.
I'm not really quite sure what we do with this in terms of a takeaway, but maybe we could just say one thing that we just kind of just sums it up for us. I think personally, I think these memories are really important. And I think, reflection is huge. And when we start to reflect, when we start to remember, it triggers a lot of other things, a lot of other feelings, and it triggers gratitude and it triggers growth. So how about you guys?
I'm going to just say one word, relationship.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. I heard so much about relationship, and I could listen to you guys tell stories all day long. All the relationships you have with your dogs, it just inspires me.
Yeah.
I'll just say, that.
Yeah. So,
you're supposed to say ditto. You're good at saying ditto.
Ditto.
There we go.
There we go.
Thanks so much for listening this week. And we'll be doing the second part of this next week. I really found that going through these takeaways and listening to these episodes, I got so much more from listening to it the second time, sometimes even the third time. So hopefully you got some new things from it, even though maybe you already heard these before. And if you've been one of our loyal listeners and you've already listened to them all, we definitely value you. And if you're a first-time listener, hey, come back and listen again. Next week, part 2. Look forward to having you join us again.
Canine Detection Collaborative! We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to k9detectioncollaborative.com. That's K9detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.